Hello, Internet. Mike Byrne here from MMOBomb.com, sitting back and relaxing, and I want to talk another MMO thoughts. So if you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe, click like, throw your comments and your thoughts down below, and come on over, obviously, to MMOBomb.com. The entire site has been revamped now that we cover everything multiplayer, not just free-to-play. The free-to-play cast has been switched to the Always Online podcast, and today's topic is something we've discussed on a recent episode, so I'll give you the card up there and you can check it out. If you like what we do here, it's the easiest way, fastest way, and freest way to support more content like this. Today, I want to talk about Elyon Online because, as I mentioned in a recent episode of the Always Online multiplayer podcast, we talked about their recent announcement of their launch delay. Now, it was originally scheduled to launch on September 29th. Now it's pushed back into October. And yeah, the reasons they gave for this were, they kind of wanted to make a few changes, and particularly a big one, which we'll talk about in a second. But it was kind of easy to read between the lines and see that maybe launching your unknown IP, developed by Bluehole Studios and published by former Black Desert Online publisher Cacao Games, might not be the best time to do it the day after Amazon Games finally does release New World. Now, whether or not you personally are excited about New World doesn't really matter in the context of this discussion, because it's just an undeniable fact that there are a lot of people excited about that game. At least they're excited about the launch of that game. We'll see what it looks like 6 months from now, I'm sure, but at least launch going to be crowded, so maybe not best to launch your game the day after New World launches. So on the surface, just if that were the only reason alone, I don't think anybody would have given them much crap about that. It's a pretty safe and good decision in my mind. But as part of that announcement, they did say the primary reason, which they didn't mention New World at all, but the primary reason on their side was that they actually wanted to shift the game to a free-to-play model. And that did necessitate some revamping of a few items and their former buy-to-play plans. Now, this generally, on the surface, I think is also a good thing. You're launching an unknown IP that's been in development for a while, so long, in fact, that it's on the Unreal Engine 3. We'll circle back to that point in a little bit. Maybe free-to-play is going to give you the best chance of success. They did launch buy-to-play in Korea, but in September also switched free-to-play there as well. So now a more universal model, hopefully more players, hopefully more money, etc., etc., etc. We know how that works. But I think I'm still a little concerned about Elyon. And I've got a few reasons why. So let's break them down, and then you can let me know in the comments how you feel about this title ahead of its launch. Will you be playing it? Do you have concerns? Are they the same as mine? Do you have additional concerns? Let me know in the comments below. So first off, if you think back, way back to the basically the Stone Age of 2017, that was the first time we heard about Elyon Online, except at that time it was called Air Ascent Infinite Realm. And the first gameplay trailer we got showed off tremendous things that I think pumped up a lot of people and certainly got me pumped on my side. Airships. Okay, Final Fantasy style airships, throw them in. I'm definitely looking at your product. Mechs, same thing. Awesome. Throw some more of those in. Customizable airships, this huge scale air combat, gliding around like you were in Ion, building and getting plots of land and housing like Arcade. You just had all these different elements mashed up, this steampunk magic vibe, reminiscent of like Final Fantasy VI and some other things. It had a lot of things going for it in that trailer. It was impressive to watch, and it got people interested. When you fast forward just a little bit, though, things didn't exactly work out according to plan for Air Ascent Infinite Realm. First off, the first rounds of testing revealed that, some of those key things that you saw in the trailer maybe weren't working exactly the way they should, and they weren't exactly enjoyable for players to experience. So Bluehole had to back off and totally revamp and rethink the way they were going to go forward. Now, I certainly wouldn't compare this game to a Bless Online situation or anything even remotely close, but you can start to see the skeleton of problems when you start talking about a massive revamp. And that's exactly what happened. Heir Ascent Infinite Realm became Elyon. It became action combat based instead of tab target based, which on the surface probably sounds like a good thing. It is developed by the developers of Terra. They do know how to do action combat, whether you like Terra or not. Maybe this would be a nice new iteration of that. But a lot of the more interesting things, ironically, in the initial gameplay trailer started to be removed. The customizable airships, things like that. The mechs. They're still going to feature, but they're going to be in special scenario, like story quest type stuff, not just generally running around in mechs or hopping in one for a PvP battle or anything. And while PvP is still in the game, it is nowhere near the focus that it was in Heir Ascent Infinite Realm. For me, being a PvE fan, that's a good thing. We have our PvE. We have more of it now in Elyon than we did in Heir Ascent Infinite Realm. You still have your PvP, including some larger scale, limited time, every week type stuff. We'll have to see if there's enough players and if the servers and the game can perform well enough, because honestly, in closed beta testing, some of the PvP wasn't that grand due to performance issues. So yeah, it's a totally different game now. So that's a huge concern for me, this kind of odd, longer development cycle with huge shifts in direction from beginning to end. Another consideration is that it is the Unreal 3 engine. Yeah, there are some aspects of this game that look very nice. When you go to character creation, that is not gender locked, by the way, so that's a plus. It looks great. You have all this customization. It is very Black Desert Online without some of the extremes of the Black Desert Online character creator, but you can make relatively unique looking characters, and they look nice. Contrast that when you get in-game and you start to see some textures and models that just really don't hold up. And while graphics certainly aren't the be-all, end-all in an MMORPG, it really doesn't help your case when you look like an older game because you've been in development longer, because you've made all of these different changes along the way to your overall course and direction. So there are those types of concerns. Not to mention that some people have accused it of just straight up ripping Terra assets, and I mean, they own the assets, so they're not really stealing anything, and most games do borrow from previous things that they've done anyway, whether it be a system taken to a new game and tweaked a little bit. But yeah, it does kind of maybe flag to you that they're trying to do things a little on the cheaper side when you take something as front customer facing as monster models or monster animations and reuse them with just slight alterations in your new game. I don't think people would have quite a problem with that if it was a Terra sequel, but Elyon is not a Terra sequel. It's an entirely new world, your new MMORPG. So voice acting was one that, for me, I appreciate that it's there. That's not cheap to implement, but they didn't spend, a decent voice acting budget. The voice acting and, quite honestly, the quest text may not be that great in most situations. So there are concerns that maybe cost-cutting measures are going to impact the way the final product is delivered. I've also seen elements and concerns online of pay-to-win. Now, I don't share some of these. There are some that make me raise an eyebrow, maybe. I'm not certainly going to give my final impression of their cash shop right now. I haven't played the full version of the released product. I've played in the closed beta tests, but we do know things are going to change still between those and when it releases in October. But for the most part, you have the general stuff that you would expect. First off, your inventory expansions, your storage expansions, your ability to call a vendor directly to your location and sell stuff. So those types of things. Certainly have your cosmetics, and maybe you think they're a bit overpriced. They do kind of skew towards the Black Desert Online pricing there, so probably the influence of Cacao Games and the money they've made off Black Desert Online. But some cosmetics even look like they were ripped right from Terra, so that kind of feels bad if you bought them from Terra and now you buy them here. When you start creeping into the cash shop a little bit deeper, you start to see some things that do impact stats. And maybe that's a no-go for you right off the bat. You don't care. If it impacts stats and it's in the cash shop, that's pay to win in your mind. But I think we have to watch this one a little closer. It's definitely, in my book, at least treading gray areas. I'll tell you why. There's things like pets and Luminous in the cash shop, and their upgrades in there. Well, we did see a video in July from the Elyon team about differences in the cash shop in the West versus the East, and quite a bit of your concerns were probably addressed there. Not all, but quite a bit of them. Things like actually the Gears currency, that's gone. That's not going to be in the Western release. You're not going to be able to convert cash shop currency pretty much directly into gold through the Gears currency and then just go buy gear. You can't do that. The loot box mentality with the pets and the Luminous have been removed. There is the ability to guarantee yourself a 100% upgrade on your pets or Luminous and the stats that they would influence. There's no RNG on those rolls or anything like that anymore. So you'll have to buy and use the right things, but you can guarantee a success and keep the elements and the stats that you want with no danger of reroll. Now, those items are in the cash shop, the ones that you're going to use to polish and upgrade certain things in Elyon via your pets and Luminous. But in the closed beta test, I didn't really feel pushed to get them from the cash shop because I was able to upgrade them at a pretty normal clip playing through some of the leveling content. That doesn't mean that it's all okay, though. I've learned my lesson from many, many years ago on Alad's Online being not very pay-to-win at the beginning, but very, very pay-to-win at the end. So I've got to reserve judgment on this to see if later in the game this does become more of a problem. Some people also didn't like that there were scrolls in the cash shop and part of the subscriptions and things like that you could get that would increase your loot drops by 10%, increase your experience gain. Separately, scrolls you could buy that would negate the on-death experience loss. So it's a mixed bag. It's not going to be for everybody. We'll have to wait and see, but certainly one worth a concern. So I don't know. I'm a little worried about the game. It's been in development for a while. It's shifted focus. It seems to be reusing, so that makes me think maybe they're on the cheap a little bit, and maybe they had to, which is totally understandable, but doesn't exactly give you the best product at the end of the day. There could be some pay-to-win leftover concerns, even though a lot of that has been addressed prior to the release of the game. And all in all, I don't think even with the delay, its release window is going to do it any favors. Yeah, you've backed yourself out of being the day after New World, which was going to be dumb. And unfortunately, you really didn't have a choice there with New World delaying itself as many times as it did to land a day in front of you. But you only went into October, so you've got New World in September, then you've got Elyon in October, and then you've got the Endwalker expansion for Final Fantasy XIV in November. That's not a good-looking sandwich if you're Elyon Online. So I think I am right to be concerned about this in certain ways, and then the big direction change itself. You know, a lot of the stuff I was kind of interested in doesn't seem to be there anymore. And in an interview where some of the team showed up at ElyonAir.com's Discord server, they asked them that exact question about the air combat elements in the game and would they come back? And the team was kind of vague and non-committal in any reply. They said, "We're aware of the positive community's feedback regarding the original air combat mechanics for Elyon. Although we haven't discussed this in depth yet, we may have plans on this for the future." So maybe, but maybe not. We don't know. So am I right to be concerned? I have other concerns, but I think they start to get a little too minor to really be worth including in this video. Let me know how you feel about Elyon Online in the comments below. Make sure you click subscribe. Come on over to MMOBomb.com and make sure you check out the Always Online podcast. We talk about all things multiplayer, including Elyon, Final Fantasy XIV, and everything else. Until next time, I'm Mike Byrne saying stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.